The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
GM, guys.
GM, buddy.
Good morning.
Congratulations.
There's a
on your gains.
new. What's that?
I said congratulations on your gains, everybody.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously, I didn't cash in on those gains, but it was, my Monero didn't necessarily go up, but my fiat value in Monero went up.
I don't know how you could cash in on gains when you're already in digital cash.
Right,
Already.
it's the bottom of the rabbit hole. Nowhere else to go. But yeah, buddy, tell us what the hell happened this week. It was a crazy roller coaster week. I think a lot of us were just watching in awe.
Man. I don't need to tell you.
Monero not doing anything. Obviously, you've been predicting for quite some time that it's going to be breaking out. But wow, did it really break out?
I mean, Tux really. I mean, honestly, I don't even need to give the price report. Tux fucking nailed it. He hit like 1, 2, 3. There was like 3 or 4 things I would have said about it, and Tux just nailed it. So, yeah, I mean, pretty much 100% agree with what Tux said there. Yeah, there was the hack, I guess. There is. I haven't seen it too much on Twitter, but I guess there is a speculation, and I would speculate too. Like, does the quote unquote cabal wait for like little hacky things to happen, and then they can be like, oh, see, look, the price pumped because of a hack? Maybe. I don't know. Like, but regardless.
Yeah, but I don't even see the negative spin on that. It's like they hacked and they moved it into Monero. Isn't that's like super bullish?
Well, I mean, thought of this yesterday. Given this is the second time this has happened within a year, buying Monero is basically like an inverse insurance. You're betting on criminals doing stuff with it. It's like a reverse insurance, right?
Yeah, these things are inevitably.
I'm not sure that's our best marketing tech.
No, it's not, but it was a funny thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, whether, and I haven't seen too much negative press on it either. But that it exists. Like that there is negative press about it. There seemed to be more negative press the last time this happened. So that was right here. This pump right there was the last hack. That Zach.
Yeah, but what is the negative? How is it like? What is even the negative spin? I don't get it. Like, what's
bro? You're the one that does the political stuff sometimes. Like,
I guess the overall connotation of like, oh, Monero's getting all this attention, and now after all this attention it got, now it comes out, oh, it's because somebody's laundering money with it, right? That's how it could be spinned into.
I mean, when I spoke to, like, I mean, I think you guys have heard me for the last 10 years, the way I talk about Monero, right? The fact that it is adopted on dark markets is a positive sign, not a negative one.
Well, no, I mean, truly, that I agree with you, but you can see how that would appear to be a negativism for certain people, right?
In this case, I mean, it is likely that someone had
their money stolen. I just think we're beyond that, right? Like, people are going to say, but like, anybody who knows anything about crypto that's not a complete noob,
it speaks for itself for anyone that
value that
matters, right?
Yeah,
like anyone that knows anything, it speaks for itself,
right? They're not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some stuffy old political assholes that that are going to be like the regulators, right? Oh, they've got to delist it. Okay, good, thank you. Finally,
we got to delist it more. Like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm a delisting maximalist.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think overall it's certainly bullish, and I think it's just getting hard at some point to put a negative spin on it, because what can you do? There's no, like, what is the option? Like, so they're going to try to now ban it from instant exchanges so that when people do obtain funds illegally, they can't easily move it into Monero. I mean, we're building decentralized exchanges. There's nothing they can do at this point. And the fact is, when people obtain a crypto that's not fungible and they want it to become fungible, they move it into Monero. It's like there's example after example, and this was just the latest one. But yeah, what does it mean though? I mean, like, what in terms of the charts, right? Because obviously this wasn't anticipated. You anticipated a breakout, but the breakout happened because of this white swan event. So is it like still then how did the charts then respond to that? Like, did it break structure? I mean, what is it, what does that all mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot to be said about that. There's a number of ways, a number of angles to analyze that.
So yeah, let us know, man.
All right, well, I guess I'll just jump right into it then. I think if you really want to ask the question of what does this hack mean in terms of the price, in terms of long-term action, and the kinds of things we might expect in the future, maybe the best thing to do is look at the last hack, right? It was only like 9 months ago. And here's what happened, right? We had the last hack, and you know, this one, the hack that happened previously, that one was more suspicious to me because it broke out at exactly the time that we said things were going to break out. Because for a long time, I remember, we spent like a year, maybe 2 years, just joking about our stablecoin price, and that's, I mean, that's basically what we had. And so it happened that we kind of came up against this level. This wick right here, that was the mini crash in April. And if you remember at the time, we had that wick down and immediately came back in price. Monero recovered faster than everything else, in terms of that mini crash. And then it immediately started pushing up against this same level. And that was kind of the moment where I said, oh shit, wait, this is the time for Monero to break out now. Like, this is the time to truly expect that. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And it just so happened to correspond to a big dirty hack. And that big dirty hack was kind of popularized across the Twitter space. It was still, we haven't seen the kind of negativism. We still see it. Like, I still see the negatives, like especially the Zcash guys. They're still out there trying to like spin this as a negativism. And in reality, they're going to lose that argument because, Doug, you're right. It is overall, it's a positive, especially if we just want to say, hey, number go up. If we want to talk moonboyism, this hack, these two hacks are unequivocally positive, and you need to front run the hackers, basically. And the only way to do that, or take insurance, as Tuck said it, you got to front run these hackers, take that insurance, and you got to get into Monero if you want to get that DGen moonboy, dollar signs in your eyes, which I thought was kind of funny because Monero Maverick was like, he actually took the opposite side. Like, this is bad for Monero. And he had kind of a long post about it. And I was like, that's interesting. Why wouldn't Mr. Maverick spin this in the positive light? Isn't that like his isn't that his thing? Anyways, doesn't matter.
But no, his thing is to attack whoever the main Monero people are, right? So to try to make them look bad, right? So if everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we're celebrating price," and he's like, "Oh, you're not a true Monero person because you like the dude, he's a schmuck. He's a schmuck. This is an interesting take. Quadrio, I cannot pronounce this guy's name. Quadrio Chalata, a hack for 250 mil to a phishing email. Sounds so true. It definitely isn't a boating accident. Like, yeah, I mean, this guy, this OG who had like how many, like 2 million Litecoins sitting on one wallet, right? He obviously got to kind of know what he's doing, right? OG, been collecting Litecoin forever. And then it got hacked because he like emailed his seed to somebody. Like, what? Maybe he just lost his, oh look, somebody stole all my Litecoin and now it's turned into Monero and I'll never get it back. Maybe.
Yeah, it's also, that's an interesting, I mean,
that's an actually interesting.
There's so many, that's why I say, like, it's, it's dubious to be like, well, the cabal is trying to do X, Y, or Z. It's dubious to be like, well, he got a boating accident. We just don't know. And we probably never will know. But that's also kind of the point of Monero, right? It's going to be hard for anyone to actually trace this down.
That's a pretty good theory, though. It's like more believable than this OG sending his private seed in a freaking email to somebody. Like, what?
Well, maybe he's like that guy that the guy with a new account that bought all his followers and said he got his atomic wallet hacked recently, but it was $500,000, but it was just chump change to him. So maybe this 250 mil was just chump change to whoever this boating accident, you know?
Yeah.
Who knows, right? I mean, 250 mil is not chump change even to billionaires. So, you know, that's
very few. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you wouldn't send your seed phrase over email with 250 mil. That's, I don't know. I haven't really looked into the story and what people are claiming. I automatically take skepticism at a baseline, if not suspicion, when it comes to stuff like this. And especially when you're talking about this much money, to me, that's the position you have to take. You have to be skeptical of whatever story is put out there on the social media. Skeptical and sometimes to the point of doubting, right? But it doesn't matter. Like, you know, like you kind of said it earlier. You're like, what does the chart say? How does this impact the chart? What does this look long term, et cetera, et cetera? And you know, the simple reality was, you know, the price broke out here from a hack, whatever. Again, it was weird because it was like, well, this is exactly the moment you expect to break out. You say, hey, if this wick can't do it on the mini crash in April, and then you immediately come to the upside, this shit's ready to go. And then it just so happened that a hack was the thing that did it. Okay, whatever, something was going to do it. And then right here, same exact story. We've been talking for weeks now that this is a positive chart. This is bullish momentum. We don't know exactly when the chart's going to enter price discovery mode, but we know that it's very likely to happen. This is, again, charts make certain patterns for similar reasons. And so when you see these kinds of patterns popping up, it's basically, yeah, the people are interested. There's organic money going into Monero. There's organic interest. You can see it on social media. You can see the growing, the growing kind of user base. We're seeing a whole bunch of people from, just from the crypto sphere, like that crypto T girl. And now she's all into Monero. She's posting about Monero all the time. So that's great. And then, Tux goes to these like Bitcoin meetups and they're all like, yeah, Bitcoin. But Monero's pretty cool too. Tell us about XMR Bazaar. So you just see it everywhere, right? It's very clear. The signs are very clear. And I know anecdotal fallacy and all, but there is value in anecdotes as long as you understand their limitations. So what are we looking at right here now? So we've taken a look at the previous thing. We had this big spike up. Okay, it came back down. And what happened here? You had the big spike and it had to sort of retest that place that it broke out, right? They talk about revisiting the scene of the crime. If you listen to that Gareth Soloway guy, that's a funny way to say it. Because in this case, it actually is the scene of the crime, apparently, maybe, whether it was a real boating accident or a fake boating accident or actually a real crime. Someone's going to call it a crime. Some Fed boy out there is going to cry to some judge about it being a crime. And here it is. You had to retest that scene of the crime. And probably, guys, it looks like we're going to have to do the same here. Now, where's that breakout level? Do we have to retest here? Do we have to retest here? I don't know. I would just tell you that this is probably the zone, right? That's probably the zone where you need to. And here's another thing too. I was starting to get slightly concerned that we would just go from 800 to 1,000 to like 1,100, 1,200 to have some stupid blow off and then just come right back down. I would much rather test 500, 600. I'd rather test this area that I circled in white. I would rather test that now and have nice established floor and make everybody out there, all the degens and all the traders and all the swing traders and all, just the whole, gelatinous mass of investors and buyers, etc. I would rather have them look at this chart and be like, yeah, that was a nice spike. That looks like there's a lot of positive. Okay, it's finding support here. And then it starts moving up again and everyone's going to be like, oh shit. Yeah, that was the support. Look, the chart still looks really nice. Let's go. When charts go up by 2x, 5x, 10x overnight, everyone starts to get nervous. The cattle start to say, yeah, who's about to get slaughtered, right? Someone's getting slaughtered. Is it going to be me? I don't know. I'm bouncing out. And then you reverse right back down. That's not what we want. We want to see continued gains into the future. And the only way to do that is to be patient, right? So be patient, guys. It's totally fine that we come back down and we establish some supports down here. This is what we want to see, regardless of whether it was a hack or whatever. It doesn't matter. Could have been a hack, could have been a boating accident. And like Tux said, once the price starts to go, and this chart already looked really nice, and once those candles start hitting, you get the entire rest of the ecosystem. Everybody starts piling in all those, and we saw it. Like I don't know about you guys, but I see all these big freaking accounts with, 50,000, 100,000, 200, 250,000. The Tyler Durden, the actual Tyler Durden of Zero Hedge, who, by the way, I think is probably not that great a person. I don't know, but he wasn't treating the Monero OGs very nicely. Not just me, but like other people too. Anyways, but you get all these guys and they're piling in, and you get the bots, the bots detect the hype, and then the bots pile into the hype. They try and front run the hype. They want to be the account that's leading the revolution, right? We have all of these fucking people now in Monero that want to be leading the revolution. And it's like, guys, how about, why don't you go follow Kayabanerv, right? Like, he's the guy that actually is making a lot of this happen. Follow the actual like developers. Why should anyone listen to you who has no technical background lead the revolution? Shut your stupid mouth and follow the guys that are actually smart, right? And that's not even me, right? That's not me. There are other guys that are like smarter. And if you want to really know about Monero, follow those guys. Stop trying to be the leader of the revolution. We don't need a leader. Anyways, we have an XMR chat here. It showed up a second ago. If you guys want to bring that back on the screen, we can read it out. I was in the middle of a rant. I'm sorry. It's trying to come up, but it didn't come up.
Is it
all
up
right,
now?
we have Anon tipped 2 cents. Anon tipped 1 Monero. He says, my 2 cents. Whenever Monero is about to break out organically, the feds put news about how a hacker is laundering a $1 USD to suppress it. The source for this hack is a guy on Twitter that is apparently involved with Binance. Yeah, I do think that I'm not saying that I think that we know that for sure, but this is the same guy that was like last time that the hack happened. He might not have anything to do with it. He could just be an investigator. It was a little bit too convenient the last time that this breakout hack, the hack and the breakout, that was too convenient of the timing. This shit was about to go regardless. It was about to break above that line. This one, it didn't have to happen right now. Like this hack, the price didn't have to smash up here. It could have just as easily done a nice little peak and, sort of continued like this. Maybe it did have to happen. Maybe the people were piling into Monero. And so maybe there was some background thing that they said, let's make a hack, a quote unquote hack. And then we'll say that's the reason, and if you think that that's too petty for the cabal to do, you're wrong. The cabal is the most petty, asinine little weaselly motherfuckers you've ever thought you've ever met in your entire life. Just look at Kash Patel speak, or look at Christy Noem. Is that her name? The White House press secretary, or, Bondi. Look at these people speak, and you just like, it's so disingenuous. The little tiniest little lies that they tell. Look at Hillary Clinton, right? That's the kind of people you're dealing with when we talk about the quote unquote cabal and crypto and Binance and Bitmain and their partners, right? That's the kind of people they are. They will do the stupidest little things to try and win the tiniest little advantage of a game, and they'll try and do that 100 times, 1,000 times, death by paper cut. So I
that's
agree
an extremely dangerous strategy. Like that's like the dumbest strategy ever. Like we're gonna pump Monero to make sure nobody thinks it's actually organically going up.
No, it's more that it was gonna pump, and they knew that it was gonna pump, and that they could no longer suppress that breakout. So they say, well, if it's gonna pump, let's generate a bad reason for why it pumped, which is a hacker.
You're right, but then the bad reason is Monero is so useful as a tool for being fungible money that when hackers hack, they move into Monero. Like it backfires on them, right? It's like such a bad strategy.
Well,
I find it super hard to believe that like there's some diabolical people being like, all right, it's about to break out, so we're gonna make it look like a hack. All right, so it looks like a hack. And what is like anybody with an eye,
Well, look, what do the feds do?
Who
when
isn't
they
a moron is gonna be like, all right, that just shows that Monero works as intended, right? Like I'm gonna now buy more of it.
Well, when the feds want to ban like a particular part of a gun, what do? Right? They do things that make those parts of the gun look bad, right? So then they have more justification to ban them. So potentially, I'm not saying it's the case, but potentially they could be using that as not for anyone else, but just for them as justification to further ban like privacy or privacy coins,
Yeah,
I think that's
if that is their strategy. It's horrible. It's just gonna blow up in their face.
Well, you're right and you're wrong. You're looking into the future. You've got the future vision, but looking back into the past, this kind of stuff has been used to suppress Monero to good effect. In the social sense, We were here 2021. We saw the kinds of stories, the kinds of news that they put out, and it worked. Everyone said, "Oh, Monero's a darknet drug criminal. It's bad. I don't do drugs, and no one's going to buy it, and they're just going to ban it, and they're going to delist it." And that did work for a long time because the delisting hadn't happened. And finally, once they H-bombed us with the Binance delisting, and then Monero proved, hey, we didn't need Binance. It was actually a net negative anyways. They're still kind of using that playbook, but going into the future, it's going to be worse and worse for them. They might actually.
I mean, if they really, if these guys wanted to tank, all they would have to do is, all right, same thing. Instead of saying a hack happened, be like, we just traced Monero. That's all they would have to do. That's
maybe, and don't be surprised
like,
if
it's a lot easier to do
that
and pretend to do that than to pump Monero and then hope that it's just viewed.
Bro, that's what I'm saying though. Like, they didn't necessarily have to pump Monero. Monero was already going to pump. They might have been like, I'm just saying it's the way, it's a modus operandi that these guys do and have done, and it's the way they operate in other areas. It's 100% possible that they saw a big influx coming into their exchanges, because remember, they have total visibility on what's coming into the exchanges. They have the chain analysis. They know what the on-chain flows look like. They front run. Like, this is why
this 200 mil worth of whatever Litecoin and Bitcoin. Are you saying then that was just organically moving into Monero, or like what is that? Because that's on chain, right? They see, or we could see that happening, or I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I assume that it's actually out there, right? There's chain analysis where you could see that these coins were moving into instant exchanges and then moving into Monero. So that's just organic movement that was happening. People moving tremendous amounts of Litecoin into Monero.
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying that it's a possibility that should be in our minds. We should like, how can I put this? If you want to understand the world, you have to think multi-paradigmically. Like, you have to look at simultaneous things and say, which of these could possibly, like, is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. It's possible that they pumped the price. It's possible that someone was a genuine hack. It's possible that someone had a boating accident. I'm not trying to say the
boating accident is the most, because it actually that kind of, like, if you're going to do a boating accident, I guess you would want to time it with the breakout as well, right? Because you would maximize, returns there potentially.
No, if you wanted to have a boating accident, you would want to do it during, like, you'd want to do it when prices are falling. You would want to have your boating accident right around here, or at the bottom.
Yeah. So
you'd want to look for the highest liquidity moments to have your boating accident, not after price has already gone up so much and it's the liquidity is as thin as possible. I think probably the hack is still our most, like, it's still probably the highest. It's still probably a pretty high probability there. The whole point of everything I said was just, hey, the cabal does do things like this. You have to think in that kind of way. But again, it doesn't really matter, because in the past, these kinds of tactics against Monero to frame it in that darknet evil coin kind of way, that's going to work less and less, because ultimately people, like, Monero has the reputation, and for all the same reasons that people rejected that narrative for Bitcoin back in, I don't know, was it like 2015, right around there, 2016, that narrative started being rejected, and then everyone piled into Bitcoin. Monero's at a similar point here. That narrative is going to be rejected. So yeah, I mean, to do if the cabal was trying to do a hack to make, you're right, like, that's probably a terrible strategy for them. But that does, they often do things that are bad strategies just because that's the kind of people they are. They're just blind.
I mean, I don't think Zach himself is a bad actor at all.
No.
Every time these things have happened, he's always spoken highly of Monero in the context of, like, yeah, I use it myself because it's that good. And I know on an account, I haven't talked to him directly, but I know someone that has, and it sounds like he likes Monero and he uses Cake Wallet. So
he likes the coin.
He likes the coin. He doesn't sound like someone that would go out of his way to attack it. But maybe, I don't know. I guess I have no further argument to make on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just one of these things. We don't really know for sure. Zach hasn't shown himself to be, some of these guys, they'll talk good about Monero, and then suddenly they'll start, like, talking trash about about some of the people in Monero, and they put these subtle jabs out there, and you're like, dude, it kind of sounds to me like you're trying to you're trying to pretend to be, you know, all about Monero while subtly denigrating it, which is another tactic that, you know, that you see people do.
And I know why we're like zooming into this, you know, Monero situation, because that's what affects us the most. But if you look at all the work he's done a lot of exposing of a lot of like shitty parts of the crypto industry that 100% deserve to get destroyed.
Yeah,
So he's done a lot of good work in the industry in general. Even if you don't like some of what he's done, he's very good at what he does, and he is not a stupid person at all.
the investigative work is super necessary to reveal the kinds of crap that's happening in crypto, because it's all over the place. The fraud is just rampant, and of course we're in the golden age of fraud. It's not just crypto, but that work is like boring. You have to just pour through stupid, you know, one address to the next, and you have to create little graphs and little special scripts and tools to help you analyze where the money is flowing. And that's I wouldn't say it's thankless work, but you know, you're gonna go fishing for a lot of stuff that might not turn up anything, or it might be really hard to put something together. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely work that needs to be done, and we should be thankful that he's doing it. And again, like you said, he doesn't shit talk Monero. He's positive on Monero. So
it seems like he's been consistent ever since I started following him. So
yeah, I wouldn't like roll him, like if there was some nefarious like thing behind this, whatever, like I wouldn't roll him into that probably. So that might be the place that I might maybe disagree with Anon. But is he involved with Binance? I don't know. Whatever. I don't want to do guilt by association, but you know, that's also a relevant factor. Anyways, let's move on. Shortwave had gave us an XMR chat as well. Shortwave tipped a 1/10 of $1 million, and he says a hacker donated to entire Monero community via slippage. We all benefit from hack. I like maybe I should have read that in a Russian accent, since you lacked any articles like the. Anyways, yeah, we all benefit from hack. I agree. This, like, what does that do? It cleans out the liquidity that was that was here at the sort of like, are we going to make the all-time high? Are we going to do it? Are we going to get there? And then it just cleans that liquidity out. It depends on if the hacker wants to totally stay in Monero, right? That's a question. Is he just going to move everything out? That seems retarded at this point, but you know, it has taken hackers like 6 years. They have all been retarded because it took them 6 years to realize that they needed to hack and immediately come into Monero and then just chill for like a period of time.
Stay, yeah, for a while. Slowly trickle it out over time.
Like, how could you be a hacker and look at this chart and think to yourself, I know I'm gonna lose like half my cash getting into and out of Monero so that I can like
yeah, literally getting in and out, you're like losing like so much of that money. It's crazy.
Not only are you losing the money, but you're losing the privacy. Like, you're leaving a footprint because of amounts, both amounts, and because of the rings of 16, right? We don't have the full membership, full chain membership proofs yet. Like, he's very likely leaving signatures that could lead back to him, especially if he immediately deposits that onto an exchange. So hopefully hopefully for us, he's smart enough to stay in Monero. But you know, we'll see. It's hard to believe that he wouldn't at least keep something in Monero. And this is going to continue, guys. Like, this is like, if nothing else, this kind of thing is going to continue because the hackers now figured it out. They got it. Like, if you steal something, if you just hang out on chain, you're either going to get caught or your funds are going to get frozen if you stole, you know, Tether, USDC, or whatever. So you got to fucking get into as much as you can into a privacy coin, the privacy coin. And this is just going to, like, the market cap is going to more and more integrate these kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, does that mean that we have to go up right now? You know, I don't know. But again, from a charting perspective, from what appeals to the traders and the degens out there, you know, the thing that you want to see, as we said, you want to actually establish this as a support. Ideally, let's go back to the weekly. Ideally, what you do, like the most bullish scenario here. So you got this chart right here. You got this line, this line right here. And let's zoom back in now. We're on the top side of that line, and truly anything above this line right here, right, this level, anything above that is price discovery. Last week I said, you know, maybe we'll get into here for some period of time, and then we'll break that, and then we'll be in price discovery. But we just did it all at once, right? So, you know, right now, the most bullish scenario would be to stay above this line, right? This is now becomes like the new bull market sort of support zone. And that could send us pretty easily, that could send us to 2000. That wouldn't be like an unreasonable target to have for Monero. So let's take a look at some stats. Let's add my statistics summary. So I'll give you a little thing that I look at trying to understand where might Monero top out. This didn't work for gold because gold broke all my models because there are fundamental things happening in the monetary and global power order. But this purple line has worked quite well in the past, and maybe I'll show you that a little bit as we go on here. So this purple line currently sits at about 1900, but it's an acceleration metric. So when price gets going, when price starts moving up, this purple line will start slowly curling up. So depending on how far in the future it takes for Monero to find some, I don't know, new interim high, that purple line will curve up. So I don't know, 2000 wouldn't be an unreasonable target, to sort of eyeball. And again, you always got to play it by ear in the moment. We did that with gold. We hit my purple line and I was like, yeah, that's my statistical level, but looking at everything else, couldn't really see anything else I wanted to buy. So we just sat tight in gold, said, all right, let's just hang out here. Maybe it's a mistake. I don't know. So that's what I mean by play it by ear. You got to really you got to stop and ask yourself, well, is it the right, is it the right decision to sell here? Is it the right decision to take my Monero and buy gold, for example, or buy some property? So that's another thing, guys. When it comes time that you got life-changing gains and you're like, I have to sell, and like, okay, I'm not going to fault you for quote unquote selling your Monero. That could be buying, if you're using Monero to buy gift cards, you're selling your Monero. And no one's going to fault you for that. You have to live, you got to eat, you need your Amazon packages, you got to get your Airbnb, your hotel for MoneroTopia, right? You got to spend some money. Anyways, but I would say that if it's at a point that you got life-changing money, try to roll that into something useful, right? Buy a property with it. Go buy a classic.
Buy a gas station in Mexico on XMR Bazaar.
Yeah, exactly. Buy a classic car to go with your gas station. Like some like old gas guzzling classic car that's going to go up in value, right? Like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You polish it with a baby diaper and you never drive it and you keep it in your glass house in the forest. That could be an investment too. People buy Rolexes all the time. Anyways, moving on. Okay, XMR BTC is hitting the bluish bands, our upper standard deviation bands. Okay, when you have a fundamental event like a hack that drives price up like that, you can violate statistical levels quite easily. So again, I always want to caution you guys against using too much TA and diving off the deep end too hard on the on the stats and all that. Because inevitably someone out there in Twitter is going to totally misrepresent, as I'm cautioning you guys here. I see it all. I don't know why Twitter's got to be such a cesspool sometimes, but some people out there, they just have to have something to tell you. They just have to be like, yeah, well, that's just a model, bro. And, models break all the time. I'm like, oh my God, do you even understand? Have you ever studied statistics? No, shut up. I try to warn people. Anyways, these blue bands are the statistical spot. You would say, hey, that's a pause point. I don't know if it's going to be a pause point, guys. Monero's got so much momentum. We could end up going straight to the top of these blue bands up here. The place that will make me feel more comfortable is this horizontal line that I just dropped. So this was the spot that during the bear market, and even as the bull market looked like it was, like it wanted to. Well, no, actually, I take that back. This was the bear market, and then this was actually the very end of the bear market. It was literally as Monero versus Bitcoin dropped. That was the end of the bear market as Bitcoin started pumping. So Monero performed very well, right? We got back up to 0.01, which is 1% of Bitcoin's price. Monero recovered to that level, and then the bull market started again. And then Monero did the thing that happens in bull markets where they pump everything else fraudulently, but they don't pump Monero for obvious reasons, So getting past that level, getting past that 1% of Bitcoin's price, and because the supplies are about the same, it's also about 1% of Bitcoin's market cap. Getting past this level right here is a really psychologically crucial point, I guess, for both for me and for probably the market in general. So right now, we're probably still some ways out from that. We're probably at least weeks, if not months away from that. Who knows? Maybe some new big hack will happen, and then the next wave into Monero will come. And at some point, some hacker's going to come into Monero and just stay. right? They're just going to drop $250 million of liquidity into Monero, and they're not gonna leave. It could even be the case. I don't know. I haven't looked at any of the chain analysis or any of like the, what people are saying about what happened. I don't know. Maybe the guy did drop 250 and then stayed, and maybe this pullback was just the speculators, right, that piled in on this thing, and they're all taking profits, right? Maybe that's the pullback that happened there. Who knows? The other thing that's crucial, I think, on this chart that we should point out is this line right here. In fact, let me drop a few of them so that it's very clear to you guys. So that thick area of line that I just drew, you'll notice that has been a significant spot for the Monero chart for a very long time. When Monero launched, this was the place that it found resistance against the, versus BTC. It found resistance against Bitcoin early on in its history and then pivoted out of that and skyrocketed. And you'll notice that's a very similar thing that just happened. This was our resistance here for a long time. And we pointed this out, and also Arctic Mind pointed this out a few weeks ago on the show. And look what happened. Again, kind of same idea. After breaking that, after tagging it a couple times, right, you break that and it violently comes towards the upside. There's a very good chance that this is just not done. There's a very good chance that Monero is going to shoot for something like the 0.13, 0.015 level relative to Bitcoin. Could very easily get there in the next few weeks. And then obviously also, I don't even need to point this out, but this was the bull market versus Bitcoin. It was a bear market, but this was the actual like bull market of 2021 for Bitcoin. And that's again where Monero sort of bottomed out before recovering. So this was a whole bunch of bullshit, right? This was induced. This was the Binance delisting. This was the 2 years in the underworld where the actual dexes had to get built out, where the Monero community as a whole had to be reminded, hey, what are you here for? Are you here for gains? Or are you here for freeing the world with digital freedom money? And everyone had to take a deep look in their souls and say, you know what? We do need to get off the exchanges. We do need to find ways around this. And that after that happened, now price is moving up again because Monero has proven anti-fragile, has proven resistant to the bullshit, and now we're getting an entirely new crowd of degens that are hopping in saying, yeah, now replace Bitcoin, more gains, the best gains ever. Nobody has gains like us, and all of the things, right? So, obviously this comes with the territory. We're going to get these kinds of people in. You're going to get the NGU degens. It's going to happen. You're going to get people from all flavors of political beliefs, etc. And that comes with the territory. And it's annoying sometimes because you see these people that are like, they're bringing their terrible philosophies and their terrible degen mentalities into Monero. And we're like, man, we really worked hard to try and like foster a community, a mentality that's a little bit more responsible, a little bit more mature, a little bit less culty, and hopefully what we get is enough people coming in from different flavors that there's enough tension that everyone's like, yeah, I disagree with you, and I think you're kind of retarded, but I guess we both like Monero, so that's good enough, right? And I think that actually could keep a level of healthiness about the community, having some low-level conflict. You don't want a monoculture. You end up like Bitcoin. You end up fucking losing the plot. So anyways, everything's still looking fine here. Probably, I guess, without another hack or without some like big speculative impetus coming in, maybe we have to play around on this level for a little bit before Monero can go higher. Again, Monero's at this point now where the statistics are going to matter less and less. These levels might matter less and less because you have a fundamental change going on in terms of how people see the coin and the way they want to invest their money. And we've got the speculators, and we got the soul bros, and those, the degens coming in that way. It's interesting, guys. We're in a different regime, a different profile for Monero in terms of price, in terms of the action, the TA, etc. So just keep a level of mental flexibility there in terms of, if you're a trader, what you're going to do here. Probably your best thing is, hey, there's a pullback here. Start buying, right? Start buying in the 500 to 600 area because very likely this is going to end up setting some kind of floor. Could things wick down below it? Yeah, you could get a wick below it, but this is your accumulation zone. This is the new accumulation zone. So accumulate your Monero between 500 and 600. The liquidity is low, and it only takes little things to smash that price up. During this whole event, we actually didn't see a massive price divergence except for Poloniex. They don't count. They're just retarded. I don't know why. Justin Sun has to run an exchange that can't keep a pegged price to Monero. Maybe I just need to remove Poloniex because they're just noise. The other coins, the other exchanges here were all basically centered around 0 for this entire event. So cool. Sure, this chart doesn't really tell us a whole lot anymore. Let's look at the market cap dominance because that's also a nice chart to look at. Since Monero is doing quite well, finally have broken out of this, like, I don't know, this death triangle, this death parallel, whatever. I don't know what to call this structure right here, but there was we kept almost breaking it, and it took so many years to break this thing. We finally broke it. So yeah, I mean, probably, TA says the next place is to look for up here. I guess where would that be from our current price? That'd be about a 2x from Monero from where it currently is. So maybe about $1,200, all other factors being equal. If there's a bull market and Monero is doing the best in the bull market, which actually might even be possible this time, that could actually be a possibility. I don't know. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen, but it's possible. It's like the last bull market that wasn't possible because of the fractional reserve scam they were pulling. That's how they suppressed Monero's price. They don't have that mechanism anymore unless they relist on Binance. There were some rumors of that. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe. All right. I think we've talked enough about Monero. Let's move on. Let's try and keep this thing rolling. We've got Pirate Chain. I guess the hacker also bought some Pirate. Is that what happened? The hacker said, I'm going to go buy a bunch of Pirate Chain. And so the Pirate Chain price pumped by 3.5x. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't do the chain analysis and, see if they were buying Pirate. Maybe they did. If they didn't, then this would just be, questionable. But maybe they bought Pirate. I don't know. That was a pretty big pump. That's a 4.5x pump in like a few days. So you could have hypothetically had some pretty big gains on that one. I didn't see it coming, right? And that's the thing. Pirate seems to do this. It seems to take the elevator up. So you don't know necessarily when Pirate might decide to make a 2 to 4x. So that seems to happen from time to time. Zcash is not really doing anything. Clearly, the hacker didn't value Zcash because Zcash didn't pump at all. Maybe they went up a little bit, but you couldn't say that. So, for example, right here, you couldn't say that this action is that even correct? Do I have that right? Yeah. So you couldn't even say that this action right here was like anything outside of the normal of what this chart is doing. The chart almost broke down in real time last week. Maybe, again, this is a place where I really would put, I think we all would put some kind of weight into saying, quote unquote, the cabal did pump Zcash. Their corporate associates, their partners, whatever you want to call them, did pump. They were a major factor in pumping Zcash. They also used their mechanisms to get the plebs, into Zcash as well, right? That's what they did. They used their bots. They used their connections. Anyways, Zcash was about to break down here. That was looking really, really bad. And it looks to me like they were able to find a way to put a floor there while they sort of salvaged the narrative. And then here's the special thing. And, maybe Tux can talk more about this, but Vic posted, so Cake Wallet Vic, he posted that, you guys, Cake Wallet released Zcash as an option that you can use Cake Wallet for Zcash. And they posted about it on the Reddit and the Zcash places, and then they got their post removed. And everyone was talking shit about them. All the Zcash guys were talking shit about Cake Wallet integrating Zcash. And that's so dubious. That's a very small data point, but it's a small data point that means a lot in my mind. It's a heuristic. It's a massive, massive red flag. Like it means that they're pissed off that there would be another way to use Zcash and an implementation. And because that Cake did the implementation right and protects your privacy as well as an optional privacy chain can. And so it makes you wonder, with some of the weaknesses of the Zashi wallet that were discovered and the kinds of reporting that it does. I can't remember exactly what that was, but there was a level of reporting, and you could basically reconstruct swaps. The Zashi guys could reconstruct swaps and see what you were actually doing. So they were pissed about that. And that's like, wait, why are you pissed about someone spreading a tool to get into your chain to use Zcash? So I suspect that it's, there's something nefarious behind there. No one would be anyone that's genuine wouldn't be pissed off about that. They'd say, see, look, even the Monero bros are adding Zcash now. But instead they like suppressed the post and got pissed off. Anyways, Zcash is there. The tech is cool. The people behind it are just, in my mind, scumbags. I don't know why they got to act like that, but
there are a lot of individuals that were excited about it, of course, but basically anyone that's involved in the upper echelons of Zcash and ECC, they're not interested or whatever. They didn't want to take part in like any kind of dual marketing whatsoever with Cake. So
Yeah, that's so suspicious. Like, and if it was just that one data point, you would raise an eyebrow and be like, "What, bro? You know? Oh, okay, I guess whatever." But the problem is there's a litany of eyebrow raising events in Zcash and their connections, which we don't have to really talk about. Everyone knows that, you know, here on MoneroTopia, everyone knows that Zcash has these dubious connections to the corporate machine. This chart doesn't look super great. Could it rebound to the upside? Yeah, it could. And it's probably going to do whatever the rest of the crypto market does. But, you know, in a charting sense, I don't like this chart. You know, if you really wanted to believe that this chart had just organic strength, what you would have done was touch this guy right here. That would have been it. You would have touched that wick down there, and then you would have found your way back towards the top side, and you would try and push that. Instead, what happened is, you know, they touched the lower standard deviations, and then they had a horrible news event. Their entire dev team just quits because whoever's in charge of, like Tuck said, you know, the C-suites, there's apparently a significant number of them that are just not great people, apparently. And so the devs just quit, the price tanked, and I have to speculate here that they found a way to put a stop in that price to prevent that price from tanking further, because this chart does, at the moment, that did look like it was about to break down. And at the moment, it still looks crappy. Like, it had a rebound, but it's already pushing the bottom side here. These standard deviations, if price goes any lower, if price ends up back down here, these standard deviations will begin to curl under, and this price will likely tank. That would be the TA on that. If Bitcoin starts going up and crypto starts going up, and there is real fiat, as we talked about that oxymoron a few weeks ago, if there is real fiat entering the crypto complex, exchange complex, complexes, then you know, there will be the liquidity to pump Bitcoin, and Zcash will probably go with it. You know, it'll probably go up. So, but the major gains for Zcash are basically over. Like, you wouldn't look at this chart and think, oh, well, I'm going to get another 5x on this chart. You're not going to get another 5x on this chart. If you're lucky, you could get back to all-time highs and set a marginally higher high. You could hope for like a bearish divergence where, you know, the RSI is already in a downtrend, but the price is like making slightly higher highs into the future. But you're not looking at 2, 5, 10x gains again on this chart. That wave is done. It's gone. It's over. So that's Zcash. Let's see. Tari is actually looking like it might be able to stage a comeback here. Let's see. I had MoneroTopia. I guess I was looking at MEXC earlier. There we go. Here's the full chart. Yeah, so Tari is actually looking like it's trying to set a bottom. I think it's a reasonable conjecture that this chart is bottoming. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. You know, this chart doesn't have to go up immediately. Maybe it has to like chop here for a few months and then it can go up. I don't know. With Monero going up, this spike happened with Monero, so maybe there's some like speculative activity there, as you know, because Monero goes up. Maybe some of that liquidity finds Tari, right? Starts purchasing Tari. Still can't really get it on the exchanges. It's on MEXC apparently, and it's on CoinEx, but I don't think their liquidity is that great. I don't know. I would have to go make an account and check the order book on MEXC or the depth chart, which I don't know why I would have an account on MEXC. I don't trust them. They're the new Binance. I believe that based on their actions and their modus operandi and the kinds of things that they do, they certainly appear to be where the fraudulent elements of Binance moved after Binance was taken over by the United States government. So Cubic, I guess we just look at this chart so that we can point and laugh a little bit every week. Right now, this doesn't look like a good pattern. Looks like a rising wedge. This would be a classic flag pattern after a big, after a big wash down. Wash out, and this is, it's a flag, and this is the kind of chart that you would expect to break towards the downside, because what fundamental reason does Cubic have for existence any longer? I can't see any, unless they can start attacking Dogecoin, which would also be funny. But they're probably scared legally. They might have gotten scared legally. That could be a big explanation there. Xano is I still see Xano popping up here and there on my Twitter feed. So maybe Xano can coalesce some kind of, I don't know, some kind of momentum here. Right now, this chart looks choppy. Doesn't look like this chart necessarily is ready to break to all-time highs again, but it could go either way, right? This chart is in a neutral zone. This thing could go up, could go down. I don't know. Are people doing private smart contracts on Xano? Is that ecosystem being built out? Is there rumblings in the background? I don't know, guys. You tell me. I honestly, I'm not like huge in crypto. Like, yeah, I mean, I like crypto and I'm glad it's here, but I'm honestly not huge into like keeping up with all the latest crypto developments. I try to keep up with Monero, and Monero's like the best, and it's cool. And at some point, Monero will be back in the top 5, and the world will start healing. But until then, I'm just kind of like, yeah, fuck you guys. Until Monero sits at the place that it should exist, or at least closer, I kind of don't care about the rest of crypto. It's kind of like,
Real.
why don't we put our priorities first? What's that, Tux?
I said real.
Real talk. All right, let's go on to Bitcoin and crypto. Monero, not crypto. It's just stupid memes. Okay, yeah. So Bitcoin is. We actually talked about this last week. We said expect the next move to be up. Right, things are looking reasonably bullish here for Bitcoin. Right, they've you challenge those upper standard deviation bands. It's probably ready to try and break above them. There's still some consternation here, guys. Like this, we're not out of the woods yet. Like if we want to talk about Bitcoin and is the bull market over? So we did have. I think we talked about this. We did have the Morgan Stanley Index MSCI made their decision to not delist the Bitcoin treasuries companies, and so effectively, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy can continue using their strategy of printing money, effectively using bonds, using their corporate stock price as the backing for loans to buy Bitcoin, to force Bitcoin to go up in price. So that they have a higher valuation, which can justify more loans and also get listed on index to get the index effect. That show can continue. So that was kind of like the big, hey, this should be enough to send Bitcoin into the positive pressure territory instead of the negative pressure territory, which is it has had since October of last year. However, this pattern still hasn't quite broken. Bitcoin is still trying to find its way out of this zone. Yes, it's going up. And remember, we also talked about Cubic. We just pointed out that Cubic has this sort of flag pattern, this sort of rising wedge flag pattern after a big drawdown, and that tends to be negative. But this is one of those cases where you wouldn't, in Cubic, you would look at that in the fundamental backdrop that Cubic is facing and say, no, that's a flag. That shit's about to probably crash again at some point. But Bitcoin is a different story. The fundamentals are different. So again, this is where you have to take your tea leaves TA, and you have to really interpret what it might mean and against the backdrop of what's happening in a more fundamental sense and in a sociological sense. So it would be completely unsurprising for this chart to recover. And if it does, if this is a support zone, then Bitcoin is going to suddenly start pushing its way back up into the 100,000 and 110,000 range. Bitcoin is going to try to make a new all-time high if you start to see it getting positive. Doesn't matter. In the next few days, this chart needs to get positive here in the next few days and start doing this. If it does, then there's a very high probability that it'll break this level. It'll break the rising wedge towards the upside, and that will probably be a big pile-in event. Everyone will start buying Bitcoin and saying, all right, back to all-time highs. The bull market will be back on. And okay, that's great. Good stuff, I guess. There's so much crap happening with the dollar. Like, Bitcoin, like they made a lot of mistakes and they sacrificed their principles and they decided to become weird cultists along the way. But it seems like that's correcting. And a lot of the people that kind of took that sort of overly, they went too far with it, I think a lot of those people are correcting. And to the extent that they're sort of reviewing their own mentality of the past, just say 5 to 10 years or whatever, and kind of getting swept up in this sort of like overly hyped up culty kind of vibes. That's a very common human thing. Like I've done it. Most people will do it in their lives at some point for something, doesn't matter. Could be a coin, could be philosophy, could be a religion, could be anything. And you get swept up in it and you start to say, yeah, I got that ran away from me, right? I got to be a little bit more intellectually careful than that. So all I'm saying is that if the Bitcoin guys want to make friends with us, and a lot of them have, then sure, that's cool. They're welcome. I'm glad to have them. And with the backdrop of everything happening in the world and the dollar being terrible, Bitcoin is still better than the dollar, right? Like you're still better off in Bitcoin. Anyways, so yeah, this chart, I guess my guess, guys, is the bull market is not over. I think that this is just kind of like a fake out of So let's go backwards here. This looks to me kind of like a fake out from what happened in the last end of the last bull market. And so there, people are speculating this. Let's go backwards. This might take a second to go backwards here, but I apologize for the time. Actually, let's just all, oh, no, here we are. We made it. Okay. So what people are speculating right now is that this falling wedge pattern in the last bull market, and then this rising wedge pattern, this is more like a parallel channel than a wedge, but this scenario looks shockingly similar to the current scenario that we are currently enduring in the Bitcoin price. And that basically Bitcoin got, it kept bumping up against this rising resistance, and then ultimately broke down. And then that was the bear market, right? Now, I think that's a little too convenient. There is a resemblance here, right? These chart patterns are rhyming. You have the exact same thing here, right? You've got this kind of like falling situation, this kind of like falling wedge, and then you break up to a new marginal all-time high right around the 4-year cycle timeline. And then we break down to some like critical levels. And then now we've got that same kind of rising wedge action. This has a very similar feel as that last chart. So that would be in a technical analysis. That would actually be against the bull market. That would be against making new all-time highs. That technical analysis would tell you that you're about to break down, that this is just a fake out towards the upside. That's interesting, but here's the thing. It's too convenient. Charts typically don't do identical repeat patterns like that. And this is too identically repetitive in terms of the last bull market. And I don't believe in the 4-year cycle anymore. I might believe in it like 10% now, but I don't believe in it like 80% or 100% like we used to. That shit's over. It might slightly kind of matter because there will be like some news hype, at the next halving, but the 4-year cycle is basically over at this point. So anyways, I think that the more likely thing is that Bitcoin is going to actually break towards the upside, break this rising resistance, and then head to try to make new all-time highs. Whether it gets there or not, I don't know. We'll have to look at the rest of the macro and what's going on. I don't think there's a macro crash. Doesn't look to me like it's imminent. Bitcoin dominance, it's still looking like it. To me, it looks like it's having trouble maintaining, right, getting any higher. I don't know. I guess last week I said, hey, I would expect this chart to start going down. I think if Bitcoin does go for new all-time highs, there's a reasonable probability that you'll get some stupid wick towards the top side. It's like a wick immediately back down, and then slowly meandering on down. You're gonna have a slow meandering alt season, and a lot of alts aren't even going to participate. A lot of alts are just going to be dying, and the next bear market will be brutal for those alts. Okay, anyways, let's keep going here. Just check the macro, and then we'll call it a day. Dollar index is still chopping sideways. This is good. I guess this chart probably will just continue chopping sideways for some period of time. I don't know, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on. The states. We won't talk about all of it. We've already been long in the tooth here, but the states are having the ice problem. Again, even if you're even if you're a groiper, I think any reasonable groiper would admit that we could still like remove these Somalis that were imported by the Biden administration without completely eviscerating the Bill of Rights for just ordinary U.S. citizens, right? You could still find a way to remove those guys without having thugs on the street normalizing a police state. So obviously, that's the whole point of that is the police state. I worry about, that it's too obvious what they're doing. Like it's too obvious. Well, whatever. We'll save that for like maybe viewers on stage. But anyways, for now, I guess you just want to see the dollar index continuing to chop sideways. That will be good. Oil, as we talked about, Venezuela was the name of that game was to try and support the oil price. It looks like they did get some support on that price, but they're getting a pullback at this line here that I've drawn. Maybe this line isn't the best line. It's probably there for a reason. Maybe I need to review that line. I'm not totally sure. But that did seem to be a resistance point. Anyways, the point is that it's possible that oil could be making a reversal here. Oil might be able to get back into this zone. If it does, that's game on, right? That's gains. That is gains on. If oil can get back into that 60 to 65 zone and then hold it, that would be like, again, your ideal gains territory. So we'll be looking for that. Maybe Venezuela wasn't enough, right? Maybe the oil price still wants to go down. The world has so much freaking oil that it's, like that's what drives this chart down. It's like the whole, they fabricated these narratives of oil scarcity, and it's not scarce. There's a shitload of it. So that's why it's hard to keep this chart up. At least I speculate that's the reason why. Gold continuing to perform quite well this week. Put itself at some new all-time highs again. Unsurprising. Again, I can't tell you if this chart's going to go up next week or maybe down, but this is still a bullish chart, and this thing still has legs, wings to spread. It can keep going for quite a while. We've also got silver peaked out at about 90, 93. So silver looks like it still wants to keep going vertical. We could take a look also at the gold to silver ratio, and this is maybe a good place for us to ask ourselves, where might this bull market find a bottom, or sorry, find a top. So maybe again, just looking at the gold to silver ratio, maybe when we hit this historically important lower standard deviation at about 32, when you see a ratio of around 32, that's maybe the time that you want to ask yourself, okay, should I consider swapping my silver into some other fundamental asset, like property or Monero? Or maybe you just hodl it and you just, keep at your day job or whatever, and maybe you just say, fuck it, I don't care, I'm just going to hang on to silver. Again, that's your insurance against some kind of like crazy monetary reset and or global power order reorganization. I don't know. Stuff is in flux. There's stuff happening that is very not normal. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that. But yeah, hang on to your silver, hang on to your gold. Everything's fine. Stock market's continuing to do stock markety things, which is basically go up slowly over time. I think a new all-time high was set on the S&P 500 this week. Indeed, it was. Okay, yeah, this chart's going to keep going up. The Supremes, the Burrito Supremes that wear robes and they sit on an altar, and they are like those supreme judges of all in the whole world, I guess. They're going to tell us about whether or not Trump was unconstitutional when he did his tariff thingy. They're gonna rule. They were supposed to rule on it. They keep delaying it. They're supposed to. The expectation is they're supposed to strike down a big part of the tariff framework that Trump put in place. But they delayed that. I guess they need to. Whatever. I don't know. They want to keep doing tariffs on the world. Maybe they'll actually uphold those tariffs. I don't know. But the expectation is that no, that was clearly unconstitutional. Even if you want to try and Pharisee lawyer your way through that bullshit to make it seem like something, it's really hard to do that. So they're probably going to strike that framework, that part of the framework down. Tariffs will temporarily go away. This will increase, the expectation of stocks, and probably we'll get a big pump on that news. But they keep delaying it. So that's on purpose. I haven't thought too much about why do they want to delay it, but maybe because they want to keep taking in taxes because they're spending so much goddamn money, so much stupid fiat. I don't know. All right. Anyways, nothing else here. The M2 money supply going up. I keep saving this chart. Is it Walkel? That is it. Walkel. That's the U.S. balance sheet. So the United States Federal Reserve is increasing its balance sheet. But this is really just a little blip. They restarted the QE, but I don't know. This doesn't look too much E. I don't see too much E in this Q right now. So what do we go here from 6.5 to 6.6 trillion? That's only 100 bill. That ain't nothing. Anyways, so it does look like that's on pause. For those of you that don't know, the Congress wants to they want to prosecute Jerome Powell for, I don't know, I guess he lied to Congress about how extravagant the new Federal Reserve. I don't know. Are they doing a renovation? Honestly, guys, I find it tedious to pay attention to some of this stupid political nonsense. The Congress needs to hold Trump and Bondi and Kash Patel in contempt for lying to them, and they could even detain them if they wanted to for perjuring themselves in front of Congress, which is very clear now, even from the redacted release that happened. But no, what is Congress going to do? They're going to hold Jerome Powell in contempt because he won't print enough money. Like, Jesus, it's like I can't tell what's theater and I can't tell what's desperation at this point. But all right, guys, I guess that's enough. That's enough. Let's move on. We've had enough price report for one day. Oh, we have some XMR
all right, looks
chats.
like we have let me go and pull these up. It looks like we do get a couple more. Scrolling up. From Random Degen, said, hi, could you explain a bit more directly how you mean that boating accent would explain what happened to the price? It's probably obvious to others, but I don't get it.
Yeah, so the idea then is that let's suppose that I've got 250 million of some shitcoin. Let's just say it's Litecoin. And what I, or sorry, let's just say it's Bitcoin. And I want to get that money into Monero, but I don't want it to be, I want plausible deniability whether or not I actually have that Monero. Well, if I wanted to do something, if I wanted to be a naughty boy in terms of what the feds would think of me, what I might do is do some very dubious action, like send my seed phrase over an email holding $250 million and then be like, oh no, my email was compromised and they saw my seed phrase and they stole it all. Oh no. Right. In reality, it was just you acting through Tor and, through a bunch of obfuscation layers that stole your own Bitcoin and then moved it into Monero. And now you go report the theft to the authorities and you'd be like, hey, they stole my shit. They stole my shit. I don't got it. It's not mine. I don't have it anymore. Right. So that's his boating accident, if you will. And now he's got a bunch of Monero. And now he's private, and now the feds will never know where those Monero go. So that's the idea there. Hopefully that makes sense.
All right, and we got one from Rave Surfer. He says at random Dejan, replying, if LTC person wanted to become private, he would claim it was stolen when it was really him all along. And then Rave Surfer also tipped and said Tari is on StealthX at IO2. Okay, there's another place if you want to trade some Tari. And
thanks for that.
That's all the super chats.
I mean, the tip is in where you can find Tari.
Yeah. Yes.
But also the tip. Just the tip. To use an Archer quote. But yeah,
thank
okay,
you always,
so
buddy.
Let's sum up real quick. We'll just say that everything up still. The direction still looks up to me. It's a little bit, there's a slight question mark of dubiousness over Bitcoin, but I think most probably that direction is also up. But what we don't want to see here is Bitcoin falling. I think the direction that Bitcoin moves this week will tell a lot. So Monero, probably consolidation. Expect some consolidation. Just be patient. Okay, that's all.